Today we have a crazy story of somebody getting way too distracted during jury duty. We'll get into that in a bit, but first, today I messed up by forgetting my webcam was on during a work call. So I work from home and my team does these weekly check-ins. I usually just keep the camera off and stay quiet unless someone asks me something. Well, today, I guess Zoom defaulted to camera on because of the update and I had no idea. I was chilling in my hoodie, eating cold pizza straight from the box like some cave troll, half listening, half scrolling Reddit. At one point I leaned back, put the slice on my chest like a plate, and started picking at the cheese while laying almost flat in my chair. Almost everyone saw the whole thing. My boss goes, are you comfortable there? And I just froze. Looked at my screen and sure enough, my face, my greasy slice, my whole shameful posture was front and center. I panicked, and instead of turning off the camera like a normal human, I closed my laptop, which disconnected me completely. Had to awkwardly rejoin 5 minutes later and pretend my Wi-Fi crashed. They all know it didn't. This is why, you keep it to a very clear minimum when you're on, some kind of Zoom platform. You keep it presentable up top, you look good, business casual and whatnot, and then below the camera, that's where you go boxers or pajama pants or whatever. You know, you got your SpongeBob I love Krabby Patties digs on under the webcam, not you leaning back with a greasy pizza slice sitting on your chest. And I mean, let alone, who even does that, eats the pizza slice on their actual chest? I myself can be a slob, but even that's a bit ridiculous. Mississippi Joel commented, always tear a corner off a post-it note and keep it over your webcams, people. Edit, use whatever material you want to, but most of us have a sticky note within reach at all times, and is probably more plentiful if you're taking it off for legitimate uses often. Also, hi, I'm Steven, and if you guys enjoy crazy stories of Redditors who severely messed up, why not hit those like and subscribe buttons down below? Our next story is, today I messed up by clogging my girlfriend's toilet. So last night I had dinner at my girlfriend's parents' place for the first time. Everything's going great until my stomach decides it's time for World War III. So I run to the bathroom, do the deed, and realize the flush doesn't work. Not just weak, freaking broken. My massive contribution to their plumbing is just sitting there mocking me. Panic sets in. I spot the little shower hose, the bidet-style sprayer. In my desperate, sweaty brain, I think, I'll just use water pressure to push it down. Yeah, genius move. I spray it, it splashes, it spreads. Within seconds, I've created a Pollock masterpiece on their tiles. The floor is wet, the toilet is worse, and I'm standing there holding a dripping shower hose like I've committed a crime scene. I try to clean up, but it's hopeless. Towels are soaked and I'm dying inside. I wanted to escape. Then I sneak out, pull her dad aside and whisper, "There's a small problem in the bathroom." He goes in, takes one look, and just sighs like a man who's seen too much. Then we fixed it, but I swear those 20 minutes felt like 8 hours, and it was the worst moment of my life. I'm embarrassed to even reply to my girlfriend's good morning text. So here's the thing for OP. They pulled the dad aside and said, "Hey, listen, I made a nuclear war zone in your bathroom with my fecal matter." And the guy went in there, helped you clean it up for 20 minutes, and your girlfriend texts you good morning the next day, as in, she likely didn't catch wind or get told of what happened. I feel like there's no greener flag or sure of a sign that OP is still somehow in, right? Hovtalks commented, "Man, nothing bonds you to a family faster than accidentally declaring biological warfare on their bathroom." Our next story is, today I messed up by ratting out my own mom to Greek customs when I was 9. This happened when I was 9, but it's never left my brain. My mom took me on a Mediterranean cruise, and one of the stops was Greece to visit family. My great aunt gifted us some homemade olives, just a little bag in brine, totally harmless, or so I thought. Customs for cruise passengers usually felt pretty relaxed in my memory. You're not dragging giant luggage around, just day trip stuff. Mom and I had breezed through before without issue. So when the officer asked, "Anything to declare? Plants, animals, food, local products?" my mom smiled and said, "Nope." That's when my 9-year-old autistic self, unable to lie or keep quiet, loudly added, "But Mom, what about the olives?" Instant mood shift. The officer perks up. Suddenly, we aren't harmless tourists anymore. We're possible smugglers. We get pulled aside, bags opened, questions asked. My mom is scrambling to play it off like a silly mistake. And because I could not stop there, I also announced that we had fruit sticks. To me, it was candy, but saying fruit sticks made it sound like smuggled produce. My mom had to fish them out and show that they were just candy before the officers relaxed. I recall the customs agents being really kind despite being a bit tense, even laughing when I offered to eat the olives so we wouldn't get in trouble. Eventually they waved us through, but it felt like forever, and to this day, my mom still teases me about being the world's worst partner in crime. Doesn't it suck in general that fruit can get you in trouble at an airport? Or God forbid you have a bottle of water or like a soda? Like, I remember when I was a lot younger, I had an unopened, sealed Mountain Dew and they're like, no, can't take it on. Either stand here right here in front of me and drink it or throw it away. Should have looked them right in the eyes, assert dominance, chug that Mountain Dew in front of them, but then I wouldn't be able to sleep on the plane. Cool Disaster 8726 commented, my mom was pulled over for speeding once when we were young because she was trying to get us to stop fighting and didn't realize she was over the speed limit. The officer would ask if she had had anything to drink. My mom said no. My little sister pipes up from the back, yeah, you have. The officer stares at my mom and she had to say, Coca-Cola doesn't count, as she held up the pop can. Edit, it was a random check stop that police were pulling people over. Our next story is, today I messed up telling my best friend I like her. You should probably know that we've been best friends for about 10 years. We met in middle school, of which I had a crush on her for 6 of them and she never found out. So that actually happened a few days ago when we took a taxi home after a night out with some friends, and I guess I was really drunk because I was never planning on telling her that for obvious reasons. She also broke up with her boyfriend of 3 years not too long ago, so maybe that's why drunk me felt like telling her that at that moment. Of course, she freaked out and both of us just kept quiet until the taxi dropped us in our homes. Now she won't answer any of my calls or messages even though she sees them. I tried to apologize and told her it was a joke, but she ignored me. I guess she took it really hard and now I'm scared to lose my best friend. Update, guys, she just texted me we need to talk with a period at the end. It's serious. I'm actually scared of what she's gonna say and I don't know how to answer. And I don't want to answer right away. That'll be weird, right? You know, I don't really miss this kind of era of like panicking over that kind of thing and being like, they said we have to talk with a period, it's serious. Also, I would like to know in the comments, am I weird? If I'm on my phone or whatever and a message pops up from somebody, sometimes I take a good while to reply to it. Other times, I just reply instantly. Like if a message pops up and I'm not busy, I'll just reply instantly, but I've seen it be a whole thing online about like, you can't reply instantly, that's just weird. Stavvystav commented, best you can do is give space. Freaking out in repeated contacts is not a good look. Just let it breathe. Hopefully she doesn't take it as, this woman was just my friend this long to bang me. Best of luck. Would love to hear the outcome. Our next story is, today I messed up by drinking too much water and ending up in the hospital with water intoxication. I was very stressed yesterday, wasn't feeling well from the start and thought I was getting sick. So what do I do when I think I'm getting sick? I tend to drink a lot. I ended up drinking 4 liters over the course of 3 hours. That doesn't sound too bad, does it? But on top of that, I only had chocolate as my food, so no electrolytes. Anyways, I slowly started feeling really odd, developed a headache that got stronger and stronger, and no painkillers would help. I felt dizzy and couldn't see properly anymore. On top of that, I was hungry, but only for salt. I wanted pure salt. The craving was so strong that I realized something has to be wrong now, and then I couldn't pee at all anymore, despite drinking so much. Long story short, had to go to the hospital and I'm getting treated for water intoxication now. The reason I was craving salt was that my body developed hyponatremia due to the high water intake. Edit, it took me a few days to fully realize that I could have ended myself from this. To everybody who reads this now or in the future, please let this be a lesson to you. Be careful about drinking too much water. You know, I think that's a big part of like why people recommend you drink something like Gatorade or especially like broth. You know, the whole, oh, you're sick, have a bunch of chicken noodle soup. I mean, if you want some salt, you're definitely gonna get it in a can of Campbell's. Something McGee commented, don't feel embarrassed, I've done it before, and I acted like an idiot. It happened when I was in the military. A doctor mistakenly told me and another soldier to drink 4 liters of water in 30 minutes. He returned to the waiting room and got upset because we didn't drink all of the water in time. He told us both to finish what we had in our canteen, fill it back up, and drink it all within the next 15 minutes. So basically 6 liters in less than an hour. I remember getting a bad headache, nausea, and feeling like my stomach was going to burst. I also remember punching the wall several times and letting out a high-pitched "yeah" in between chugging and punching and slapping the wall. In my defense, I was pretty disoriented, and it was kinda painful to force myself to drink so much so quickly. Anyway, some staff heard the commotion. I don't remember what the other soldier was doing, but she was causing a lot of noise too. More noise than me. She was doing something ridiculous, like she was wailing and stomping while I was standing next to her punching the wall. The doctor also came out and asked what the heck was going on. I told him I needed to reschedule my appointment because I just couldn't drink all the water in time. He argued that it was easy to down a liter of water in half an hour. That's when one of us pointed out that we were carrying 2-liter canteens. The doc argued that he didn't tell us to use our canteens. He claimed he was very specific about the amount of water, and it wasn't his fault we couldn't figure out his simple instructions. I told him he pointed at our canteens and said to drink the whole thing, then fill it up and drink that, and do it again. He said he would never do that it would be dangerous for someone to drink that much so quickly. We went back and forth for a bit. Finally, he asked the other people in the waiting room to tell us what he said. They had witnessed everything. They all said he did what I told him he did. He had also misunderstood us when we were halfway done with our first refill, so we had chugged way more than we needed to. The other soldier and I got wheeled to the ER, I think, anyway. Honestly, I got seriously disoriented. I mostly remember waking up with an IV in my arm and a few busted knuckles. The staff couldn't believe they had 2 cases of water toxicity. Apparently, it's very rare. Be glad you didn't start punching everything and wailing, "Yeesh!" Our next story is, today I messed up by having a completely wrong height printed on my driver's license, and nobody noticed for years. So, yeah. I just noticed something absolutely ridiculous about my driver's license. Under height, it says 2 feet instead of my actual 5'7". 2 feet tall, as in toddler level height. I've had this license for years. I've shown it countless times, and nobody at the DMV ever said a word. No cops, no bartenders, no TSA agents, nothing. Somehow, this mistake has been living rent-free on my ID, and I've never noticed. Now I'm torn between 2 things. Fixing it, which feels bureaucratic and honestly kind of funny. Keeping it forever, because it's possibly the best ID mistake of all time. But I'm also paranoid. One day, a TSA agent, a cop, or some overly suspicious person is going to look at my ID and think I'm frauding the system because I'm apparently 2 feet tall. So, am I legally obligated to fix this? Could this cause problems if I travel, apply for a passport, or get pulled over? Or is this one of those nobody cares situations where I should just enjoy my hilariously broken ID? Has anyone else had a completely absurd error like this on their official ID? So I want to mention, and I imagine it varies depending on where you got your license, but when I got mine, they straight up just asked me how tall I was. So you bet on my driver's license I'm an extra inch or 2 taller. Some people say that inch or 2 makes all the difference. I will say though, on my first driver's license, they straight up typoed my home address on the actual ID. So a few years down the road, the next time I had to go to the DMV for something, I pointed it out and they replaced it free of charge, which was pretty cool. Johnny Rotten's Teeth commented, "I'm a guy, and I was in my 40s when I noticed my birth certificate lists me as female. Either I had some really impressive medical procedures when I was born, or the doctor was drunk. My mother's middle name, Ann, is also spelled ANNN, so the doctor was probably drunk." Our next story is, today I messed up 8 years ago by asking to not disturb examinations. Almost a decade ago, I was a student in my bachelor's degree in physics. I was attending examinations as a spectator with my friends. I already delivered that one and was there only for emotional support. One of my friends started the exam, and while listening, we were sitting in the second last chair's row of the room. Behind us were 2 people about our age, apparently. After a while, we were struggling to hear our friend's exam because the people behind us kept talking. In my defense, they were talking with a very low voice as to not disturb, but it was still too loud. One of them was making questions, so for whatever dumb reason, I automatically assumed that they were two students repeating the various topics while waiting for their turn. At the end of the day, this is what we were doing a few hours prior. Therefore, strong of my belief, I turned and told them, polite but serious, something along the lines of, "Hey guys, we're trying to listen to the exams but can't hear anything because of you repeating. If you could please lower your voices, that would be appropriate. Thanks." The slightly older guy apologized and actually lowered his voice. A few minutes later, he tapped on my shoulders and kind of in a cheerful manner told me, "By the way, we're also trying to make an exam here. He's the student," while pointing to the young one. That's when I realized the guy was a freaking professor that just recently arrived at our department and was assisting the examinations. I died instantly of embarrassment. After the examinations, I met him outside and apologized with my face being glowing red. He smiled, had a funny laugh, and told me not to worry. It can happen, and I had good intentions. I discovered later that, besides looking incredibly young, he actually was indeed 35 or something and just had a crazy butt career. I've seen him a couple of times during my master, but never had to directly interact with him. Now I work in the field, and this afternoon I have an important meeting with him. I wonder if he remembers me, or I just ended up in the general crazy students mix he forgot about. I hope for the latter. I also have to deal with students on a regular basis, and especially the crazy ones I met when I started. I remember them all. I stopped taking track when it became routine. Now I only remember the exceptionally crazy ones. Hopefully I wasn't exceptional. Update, edit, since I had a few requests. After the meeting, we all went out for dinner. At some point, I jokingly remembered the event and he interrupted me to finish the story. He did remember, and as someone said, fondly, he told me that it was actually very funny and that he appreciated a student standing up, even if I was wrong. We laughed about it a lot and cheered the event with a beer. A long project with a good start awaits us now. Thank you all for your support. I mean, in the end, it made for a fun story and kind of a fun recollection, something to toast your glasses to. So all in all, kind of a funny story, kind of an egg on your face moment, but really all it is at this point is just kind of a fun memory. At least the guy didn't turn around when you were getting drinks and said something like, "Yeah, you were a moron back then." Mouthtrap commented, "Dang, that's a hot mess." Where I'm based in the UK, once examinations are underway, if you speak at any point other than signaling an invigilator to come to you, you get thrown out of the exam and have to request a reset. Our next story is, today I messed up by forgetting someone in the bathroom at work. So I work in a warehouse, and the bathroom lock had been messed up for a while. Yesterday, I was the only one on shift when someone went in there. I didn't think much of it and went back to doing my usual tasks. Fast forward a few hours, and a customer comes up to me and says, "Hey, I think someone's stuck in the bathroom." My stomach dropped instantly. I completely forgot someone had gone in there earlier. Sure enough, I open the door and there they are, clearly annoyed, though not yelling or making a huge scene. I let them out right away and apologized, but man, I've been stressing about it ever since. The worst part is that I spent part of that time on break sneaking in a round of Grizzly's Quest instead of remembering to check. Now I can't stop replaying it in my head, imagining my boss finding out and deciding this is somehow fireable. It was such a dumb, avoidable mistake, and I feel like an absolute idiot for not noticing sooner. So I fail to see how this could really be a fireable offense. How do they have a bathroom that literally traps the customer if they go in there? "Oh yeah, you want to go to the bathroom? Are you sure? We call that the monster house back there." Some people, they go in and they do not come out. Like, where's the ownership from the owner of the establishment? It shouldn't be a feature of your bathroom that it can trap people in it. The inoffensive man commented, "Unless you're the toilet monitor or facilities manager, I'm not sure this is your responsibility. It's really down to facilities management to ensure the doors are fixed, which is a massive fire hazard, by the way. Good on you for being the kind of person who cares about another person's well-being, but it's not your actual fault." Our next story is, today I messed up by microwaving my socks at work. So I biked to work. This morning it poured on me halfway there, and my shoes and socks were absolutely soaked. By the time I got to the office, my feet were pruned like raisins. I thought, okay, I'll just dry them out real quick in the break room microwave. I'd seen people do gloves in there before. No big deal. I take off my socks, toss them in for 2 minutes, and go back to my desk. About 45 seconds in, I smell something awful, like burnt hair mixed with wet dog. Then the fire alarm goes off. Turns out the synthetic material in my socks basically melted and filled the entire office with smoke. Everyone evacuated, building management shows up, asks where the fire was, and all my coworkers are standing around shivering in the parking lot while I have to admit, it was my socks. Now the microwave is trashed, HR sent an email reminding everyone not to cook clothing, and I've achieved the permanent nickname status, Hot Socks. Okay, am I in the wrong for thinking people are weird for even microwaving gloves? Like, I get it, you want to have warm hands or something, but no, not in the workplace microwave. And then when you get to what OP did, at that point, I want to just straight up say freak you for putting your socks in the workplace microwave. To be fair, the workplace microwave is already probably not the ideal place in my opinion to put my food, but screw OP for thinking they can put their dirty wet socks in the workplace microwave and everything should just be hunky-dory. No. Accomplished Tank 774 commented, "We all know not to eat at your house now. Thanks for the warning." Johnny Ryle 33 commented, "Things like this are why I don't eat at potlucks." Anastasia Shepard replied, "Not a potluck, but I read a story about someone visiting their friend's new apartment. The friend made spaghetti. Partway through, visitor pulls a pube out of their teeth. The friend hadn't bought a sieve yet, so they strained the pasta through their used body towel." Our next story is, today I messed up by accidentally drinking on the job as a 3rd grade teacher. My mom and I love Arizona green tea, and I frequently bring a can with me to work for lunch. Yesterday, I cracked it open and took a sip, and it tasted disgusting. I figured it just went bad or something, so I left it on my desk for nearly the whole day. It wasn't until the end of the day that I actually looked at the can and saw the word hard written on it. It was an alcoholic version, which I never knew even existed. It doesn't help that the can looks identical to the normal version, other than that word printed on it. When I got home, I found out my mom bought it because she was curious. If my principal were to walk in and see that can on my desk, I probably would have been instantly fired. I feel like this one really is on the drink company. Well, I guess I kind of get it. It's kind of cool to have close to the original branding, but you just have that big bold hard plastered right over the logo or whatnot. I think we all just have to agree Arizona has to do better here. I mean, handle it at some point, once I'm done having an excuse for being able to drink hard drinks on the job. Serrera commented, "LOL, you just unlocked a 50-plus-year-old memory. Grade school me grabbed some cans out of the kitchen for a food drive at school without asking anyone. My mom didn't drink, but she kept Rheingold beer for washing her hair. Don't ask me why it was in the kitchen. I don't know. Parents got a call when I tried to add it to the food drive pile." Airhugme replied, "You unlocked a memory for me. When I was in 3rd grade, a kid brought a beer in his lunch, claimed his mom was sleepy and he grabbed it from the fridge, thinking it was a soda. In 5th grade, that same kid was expelled for bringing what he said was weed to school, which turned out to be some various tea leaves and parsley." Our next story is, today I messed up by accidentally forcing my neighbor to do yard work. Today is day 2 of a well-deserved 2-week break off of work. The sun is shining and I didn't have any plans, so I decided to do some yard work, including mowing the lawn for hopefully the last time this year. Earbuds in, machine going, and enjoying a good cold beer in my hand, I had a vibe going. But I felt watched. In the corner of my eye, I spotted a shade, so I looked over to my neighbor's place. He stood there looking out of the window, also with a daytime beer in his hand, but a look of pure horror on his face. We awkwardly waved, and then it clicked. His girlfriend's car is gone, but his is probably in their garage. He's also clearly enjoying some rare solo time off, without his girlfriend, also enjoying a daytime drink, but a lawn in urgent need of some TLC. Knowing his girlfriend, I realized that I'd just doomed the guy to urgent lawn care before she would be coming home in an hour or 3. Otherwise, she would definitely give him playful but definitely also sincere crap about how he spends his time off with a lawn looking like that, and sure enough, not 5 minutes later, he was powering up his mower with a look of pure defeat. I called him over, apologized, and we had a good laugh about it. He immediately shared his upcoming days off, and I gave him a beer, so I think we're good. I mean, was it the fear of what the girlfriend was going to say, or was it the fear of just feeling like you're not doing enough? Because depending on what his partner says, maybe that is the reason, but if it were me, I would definitely be seeing this guy with his beer, getting his lawn work done, and then when you do the whole lock eyes from across the room kind of thing, I'm not thinking about doing what the Lonely Island does, but I am thinking about how my lawn should be taken care of too. And here I am being lazy with a beer in my hand. You know, kind of sounding like the start to half of the country music catalog. Groundbreaking Phil 80 commented, "Had this exact conversation with my wife the other day. Not a single mower could be heard anywhere until 5 minutes after we started ours." I feel like it's the same sort of energy like when you're the first to put out your bins out and everyone else is looking and waiting to see what others do to know if it's one or both bin week. Our next story is, today I messed up by getting way too distracted during jury duty. So I had jury duty this week, and if you've ever been, you know it's a whole lot of waiting around. I was sitting there in the holding room with about 50 other people, bored out of my mind. I pulled out my phone to kill time, started playing My Prize while waiting to be called. At some point, I got so wrapped up in that I didn't hear them call my name. They apparently called me 3 times before someone sitting near me tapped my shoulder and said, "Dude, they're waiting for you." I panicked, jumped up, and walked into the courtroom late with my phone still in my hand. The judge wasn't amused. He asked why I hadn't responded, and in my nervous honesty, I blurted out, "Sorry, I was on my phone." Whole room laughed. I turned bright red, and now I'm pretty sure I'm going to be remembered as the guy who almost got dismissed because I couldn't put my phone down. I think OP's lucky that they had jury duty in a place where they were able to wait and actually look at their phone. I mean, to be fair, thankfully I've been able to not have jury duty so far, but if you're at the point where you're waiting for your name to be called to go into the courtroom and like see the judge and whatnot, I feel like they're going to make it very clear you can't have your phone out at that point. Am I wrong? Ulf Hilder commented, "There was a thread in one of the crochet subreddits recently where someone was trying to figure out what they could bring to jury selection. It was interesting seeing how different areas had different rules. I wouldn't have had a second thought about crochet hooks and or knitting needles being banned, but I guess it makes sense since they could be used to stab someone. Some places had restrictions on bringing in yarn too. The general consensus was you won't have access to your phone, so print out anything you need from it, in this case, crochet patterns. When I was called for jury duty, there were books galore. I saw a few people knitting, some were playing cards with each other, some did Sudoku, but nobody could have an electronic device." Our next story is, today I messed up by not researching my dream home's history before buying. This happened 6 months ago, but the financial pain is still very real. I found what I thought was the perfect house. Beautiful Victorian, great neighborhood, passed inspection with flying colors. I was so excited, I put in an offer the same day and got it accepted. Fast forward 3 months after closing, and I'm getting letters from the city about unpermitted renovations. Turns out that gorgeous kitchen I fell in love with? Completely illegal. The previous owners had gutted it and rebuilt everything without permits. Now I'm looking at $25,000 to bring it up to code or potentially face liens on my property. But wait, it gets worse. Started digging deeper and found out there were multiple insurance events for water damage over the past decade that were never properly disclosed. My basement had been flooding on and off for years. They just got really good at hiding it. The real kicker, all of this information was available in public records. I just never thought to look for it. The inspection only covers current condition, not historical problems. Now I'm house poor and stressed out of my mind dealing with code enforcement and water damage remediation. Could have avoided all of this if I had just done my homework before falling in love with the place. So is the problem that because it's public record, they meet the satisfactory levels of disclosing this kind of information to you? Because otherwise I would say OP should probably lawyer up. I don't know, but if the basement is regularly flooding, I feel like that's a kind of thing that you almost have to include if you're showing the house or it gets to the point where they have somebody go in to do an inspection and whatnot. Even regardless of the flooding stuff that's public record or whatnot, considering there's stuff that's popping up for OP that's directly related to the old homeowner ripping out and putting things up without a permit, surely there has to be something you can legally do about that, right? But, I anal, standing for I am not a lawyer. Scrapples000 commented, act quickly. Hiding things from the disclosure agreement is fraud. Talk to a lawyer immediately and take action. I bought a house and the previous owner didn't disclose sewer line issues. I called someone to roto-rooter the main sewer line, and he said he'd been out there 5 times before because the drains kept getting backed up. Went into mediation, the prior owners paid to have the whole sewer line replaced. But with that being said, that's all the time we have for today. Now, if you want to hear another absolutely crazy Today I Messed Up Here story, check out that video on the left. Or if you missed my latest videos, check out that video on the right. That said, I'll see you all next time with some more stories.